And welcome to Business Nightly. Today we will be discussing a limited company, its characteristics, advantages, and disadvantages by interviewing some business owners who know what they're talking about better than me. First, let us discuss what a limited company actually is. It is when partners provide capital but take no part in the management of the business. Such a partner will have limited liability. To set up a limited liability partnerships, the business has to agree to comply with a number of regulations, such as filing annual reports with the registrar of companies. All limited companies have a separate legal identity from their owners, and there are two types of limited companies: private and public. Let us introduce our first guest, who is the CEO of the private limited company Reebok, Uli Becker. This man is a millionaire and is incredibly influential in the world today. Hello and welcome to Business Nightly. We would like you to answer a couple of questions about private limited companies to clarify what it actually is to our viewers.
First of all, thank you for having me. A private limited company is a type of limited company in which shares can only be traded privately. All shareholders must agree on the transfer of the shares before the trade can happen. They have limited liability, which means they can only lose the money they have initially invested.
Could you by any chance list some advantages of starting a private limited company?
Sure, shareholders have limited liability. As a result, more people are prepared to risk their money than in, say, a partnership. More capital can be raised as there's no limit on the number of shareholders. Control of the company cannot be lost to outsiders. Shares can only be sold to new members if all shareholders agree. The business will continue even if one of the owners die. In this case, shares will be transferred to another owner.
Well, thank you for that, and we will talk about the disadvantages when we come back from the break. Welcome back to Business Nightly. We were discussing advantages before we left off for a break. Now let's discuss disadvantages of private limited companies.
While one disadvantage is profit has to be shared out amongst a larger number of members. There's also a legal procedure to set up the business. This takes time and also costs money. Firms are not allowed to sell shares to the public. This restricts the amount of capital that can be raised. Financial information filed with the registrar can be inspected by any member of the public. Competitors could use this to their advantage. If one shareholder decides to sell shares, it may take time to find a buyer.
Well, thank you very much for joining us today. We hope you come back another time.
Thank you. I'll come back another time.
Now, public limited companies. We have the CEO of Starbucks, Howard Schultz, here with us.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Well, what is a public limited company?
Well, let me begin by saying a public limited company tends to be larger than a private company and contribute far more national output and employ far more people than private limited companies do. Even though there are a few of them, the shares of these companies can be bought and sold by the public on the stock exchange. Yes.
Well, what are the benefits of a public limited company?
Well, the benefits could range from all members have limited liability. That's the same with private, basically. The firm continues to trade if one of the owners die. It's the same with private. More power is enjoyed due to the larger size. That's the same with private as well. Huge amounts of money can be raised from the sale of shares to the public. Production costs may be lower, as firms may gain economies of scale because of their size. PLCs can often dominate the market. It becomes easier to raise finance as financial institutions are more willing to lend to PLCs.
Well, okay, thank you for that. After we come back from our break, we will be talking about disadvantages. And we were talking about advantages when we left off for the break. Now, please, can you list some of the disadvantages of
course.
public limited companies?
Of course. Let me begin by saying the disadvantages can be that setting up costs can be very expensive. And since anyone can buy the shares, it is possible for an outside interest to take control of the company. So domination is really accessible in this case. All of the company's accounts can be inspected by members of the public, and competitors may be able to use some of this information to their advantage. Yeah, and they have to publish more information than private and limited companies. Because of their size, they are not able to deal with the customers at a personal level. And it is argued that many of these companies are inflexible due to their size.
Okay, well, thank you for joining us, Mr. Howard. It's been a very great pleasure. Hopefully, you can come back another time.
Pleasure.
Well, I hope you learned a lot about limited companies today. Please put your answers for our quiz questions on our website. Join us next time on Business Nightly. Goodbye.